What if we told you you could have the mansion of your dreams this very instant, provided you've got $1 to show for it? Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, perhaps because it is. You see, if pocket change could afford you a $1 million mansion, then something must be up. Whether it's a sinister reputation, paranormal occupants, or impossible to renovate, there's a good number of reasons why these properties will never sell. Strap in for a tour of the mansions not a soul wants to buy for any price, and find out which property could be yours for $1. Welcome to Cleverside, your daily dose of the most exciting information with just a click. Queen Anne, San Francisco. It shouldn't come as a surprise that San Francisco is a spectacular place. However, beauty comes at a certain price, and with it comes a hefty amount of $12,000 for an average cost of living that could sustain a family of 4. But the question remains, how could one of the most expensive cities in America be a home to the cheapest known property there is? Well, this house sits on a plot of land in Hercules, an eastern region of San Francisco Bay Area. Because of its Victorian style, the house was also known as the Historic Home 54, or Queen Anne, which eventually rendered the home a historic property. In 2010, the town of Hercules was able to acquire the historic home for a whopping $1 in hopes of reviving and preserving its charm. However, when the restoration work began, they had to cut the home in half in order to move the property to the city's corporation yard where they can do the actual grind. But this inconvenient move took a toll of their time and funds and made them realize that their means weren't enough to make the home great again. And if they chose to let go of the property, that would mean someone else not only needs to buy the home, but also move its second half from the city's property to their own plot of land. Seriously? Like, that's a lot of work. Even for $1? No thanks. Granite Loma. Residing by the lake might be a pleasant thing to imagine, but what good would it be if it was hundreds of miles away from society? Sitting on a 5,000-acre woodland along the windy shores of Lake Superior in Michigan is the biggest log cabin of its kind in the country. This property is ginormous. It spans around 26,000 square feet. It boasts 23 bedrooms, 4 separate apartment-styled cottages, and an enormous cozy hot tub. Oh, and did we mention it's got its own private marina? It was listed for sale at a hefty price of $40 million, but even after dropping that in half, it still wasn't attracting any potential buyers. So why aren't any takers flocking in? Well, for one, Granite Loma has an outdated interior, in dire need of remodeling. With an overwhelming amount of trivial relics, it would require millions of dollars just to zhuzh up the rooms and keep up with modern lifestyle. Like seriously, when the chilly winters come, you would have to manually heat up the place. Imagine all the extra expenses and efforts you would have to deal with. Nope, just nope. To make it even more difficult, its remote location isn't doing it any favors. The nearest major city, Green Bay, is almost 200 miles away. Yikes. The New Jersey Watcher Home. If the $20 million Granite Loma was too eccentric and inaccessible, then maybe this New Jersey home would be a nice consolation. For starters, this New Jersey home boasts 6 bedrooms, 4 baths, and 4 fireplaces. Its location couldn't be more convenient. Despite its long history in the neighborhood, it managed to keep up with time and got revamped wonderfully. Not bad for a house that sells at $1.5 million US. At least that's what the Brodus family initially thought. Just 3 days after moving in, they began receiving cryptic, threatening letters from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher, hence the infamous nickname. In the letters sent, the house's Watcher claimed he's looking out for the house the same way his ancestors, who were hired as caretakers of the lot, did since the Roaring '20s. The threatening letters and the story spun a life of its own in the neighborhood and eventually reached the whole country, which rendered the new owners in a hopeless state. For years, they haven't been able to sell it or even rent it after the last tenant received similar threats. We just can't win this, can we? If the woods or suburban setting won't do it, maybe the luxurious Upper East Side of Manhattan, New York could offer something different. Located at 101 East 63rd Street is a penthouse formerly owned by the iconic fashion designer Roy Halston Frowick. It was simply called 101 back in the day because it used to be a famous party place in the 1970s. Ooh. But what exactly is the turning point for potential buyers to repel such an extravagant property? Despite its history of hosting a number of famous personalities as guests, even after being put to sale from $38 million USD down to $24 million USD. Much like the Watcher home in New Jersey, this seemingly opulent and vibrant property has a dark past. When you have millions of dollars at your disposal, the last thing you'll need to be associated with is a controversial owner, especially if they had a life of excess and bad decisions that led to the demise of their own prestigious brand. Montclair House at 44 Pleasant Ave, Montclair. Speaking of New Jersey, let's retract a little bit and head to 44 Pleasant Ave, Montclair, where a mansion sits unwanted, unsold, and unloved. Well, maybe at first glance, this 6-bedroom, 3,900 square foot house would be eye-catching and draw attention for its historic significance. But say, for instance, you had $10 to spend on anything: food, clothes, an entire house. Which one would you go for? Quite a foolish comparison if you come to think of it. But believe it or not, this so-called eye-catching mansion with historic significance is on market for only $10. Yep, you heard that right. But here's the catch. That's $10, not including the land, which means you would have to agree to move the house at your own expense, including the much-needed renovations. All that along with preserving the historic elements inside the house, but removing the toxic lead paint and asbestos by law. No wonder no one wants to inherit this mess on purpose. Pillars Estate, Albion, New York. New York isn't just a concrete jungle where dreams are made of. It's also home to another historic mansion. This 7,200 square foot Greek-styled house has 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, 5 fireplaces, a parlor, a library, and guess what? A freaking ballroom. Get your freak out, because this classic epitome of a mansion was put on sale for $1 million USD in 2015. But despite slashing its price in half and the expensive renovations that it took to make it livable in 2017, no buyers were lurking in like sharks. Well, that's probably because there's already something else lurking in the property. Yes, that's right. The grandiose estate also comes with some permanent guests. According to the claims made by the owners and the workers, they've witnessed paranormal activities around the Victorian mansion, particularly a child and the former lady of the house. Coming in at number 3, the Detroit House. If you're looking to buy an incredibly cheap house in Detroit, then you're in luck, because the city mayor introduced a new program which addresses one of Detroit's largest problems: thousands of vacant and dilapidated houses, by auctioning off some of the nicest ones to people who want to live in a Detroit neighborhood. The Detroit Land Bank Authority's Building Detroit auction site initially lists several city-owned homes in East English Village, a residential neighborhood on Detroit's east side, with starting bids of $1,000 each. But the auction lasted for only a day. However, that's not the only catch. Unlike the thousands of properties in the country's foreclosure auction each summer, a winning bidder in the Building Detroit auction must agree to bring the home up to code within 6 months and then actually live in it. Almost every listing in the auction looks like a steal for $1,000, at least from the outside. But Building Detroit is upfront about the possible costs new owners might incur, and some houses need extensive repairs, such as new electrical wiring, plumbing, and even new wood floors. And those are just a few of the things on the list. UK homes for €1. Now, getting into the fabled €1 deal for a house in the UK might seem like a gimmick, but it's not. And it's worth noting that a lot of people set out to buy one of the €1 homes, but end up buying a move-in property at market price, which is still a huge bargain compared to big cities. While the price of these homes is just €1, buyers are expected to take out a low-interest loan of $35,000 to restore one, with some houses being in such poor conditions that they have to be demolished. All in all, still not worth all that stress. How about we look for options in the southern end of Europe? Ololai, Italy. Who in the world hasn't dreamt of owning a house in a pretty Italian village? This might just be the answer you've been waiting for, because you can legit buy one of these for just over $1. Located in Sardinia's Barbagia area is an Italian town of Ololai. This Italian mountain region is selling hundreds of abandoned homes for just €1, which is literally $1.20. Pretty wild, right? It's not the first Italian town to try this tactic, but it seems to be the first to live up to the promise. It's also got the beauty and history needed to draw people in. But the real estate bonanza crumbles once the purchase is done, though. The 200 stone-built dwellings up for grabs are in poor condition, and buyers must commit to a refurbishment within 3 years, which will likely cost about $25,000. Behind the sell-off is a plan to rejuvenate a community that is proud of its history and traditions and wants to do what it can to keep the town from disappearing from existence. In the past half-century, Ololai's population has declined from 2,250 to 1,300. You can say that it's well on its way to becoming a ghost town, and it's barely growing at all. Oops, looks like our dollar stretched as far as it could. Out of all the properties you've seen, which one would you most likely reside in? Tell us in the comments section below. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Here are some of our other videos you might like. Check them out.